I'm looking at this. I think when it comes to terms of the objective, discuss how businesses increase their profits. I guess looking at this moving forward is how a rich company gets richer. Would that be a better way to put it in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's pretty much it. I'm up at the top, but how am I going to stay there? How am I going to increase my profits? And a lot of them are going to do that, but we're going to take a good look really when it comes to Andrew Carnegie and steel. In the previous lesson, we talked about how we had a lot of steel mills popping up in Pittsburgh, which is probably why the NFL team refers to themselves as the Steelers. Of course, this is going to increase some prosperity in these particular areas. It's going to create jobs. There's definitely more steel mills out there. In terms of steel, our society is becoming a little bit more, I wouldn't say dependent on it, but it's finding its uses in terms of bridges. U.S. Navy, the ships are going to move in that particular direction. When we get into the immigration later on in the unit, the structure's going up in terms of skyscrapers. The infrastructure, or the skeleton, as I like to refer to it, of the building is going to be made of steel. Some more steel mills. Anytime we come up to this, everybody talks about the pollution factor.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the major negative impacts of industrialization is the pollution of the environment. And this is before the EPA, any sort of regulations were out there, and we were just, because the main fuel was coal.
Right.
Was burning black coal, and it was just pumping out billows upon billows of smoke into the environment.
I'm glad you're bringing it up. This is like prior EPA, because when you look, all right, this is what's going on the outside, what's going on the inside. Workers probably don't have rights, unsafe working conditions.
Yep.
You're years away from OSHA. OSHA, I don't think, is until 1971 they come out about.
We've always had oceans.
OSHA.
Oh, OSHA.
The coffee needs to make its way to the top floor with the steel infrastructure skeleton. But that's just something that's there that we'll probably get back to. If this is what it looks on the outside, what's it going to look like on the inside? Workers don't have rights. It's not going to be safe. And again, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. There's no regulations. And these owners, these business leaders are going to do whatever they want to increase profits.
And if this is how bad the air looked, imagine how bad the water looked.
Oh my God.
The Ohio River, not pretty.
Don't drink the water. So when we're looking at his steel empire, Carnegie was earning huge profits. Again, more and more people are using steel. He uses this money to buy out rivals. Pretty common business strategy, especially when you're on top like him. And he brought iron mines, railroads, and steamship lines, and all these things. And all of that's going to become a part of what we're going to talk about today, is this vertical integration, when you're gaining control of all the steps used to change raw materials into finished products.
Yeah, this is like business 101.
Yep.
If you want to become successful as a business owner, there are two different types of business models, whether it's vertical integration, as it's known, or horizontal integration. So literally vertical integration, I think we have a slide that kind of shows it.
Yeah, we do.
In literally vertical integration, you own every single step in the process, from going from what comes out of the earth, whether it's a raw material, whether in this case it's cattle,
right,
to literally the finished final product. So you go from raising the cow to slaughtering the cow to shipping the cow to the warehouses where they're packed and cut to eventually the dinner table.
Right.
Like, you own every single process in that. Where horizontal integration is, you are depending on others to provide you with what you need, and then you are depending on others to get your product out there. This is more the model that like Standard Oil went by. Mm-hmm. This is what most of the model of most modern companies use today. The easiest way that I relate to my students what vertical integration is, it's Amazon now.
Pretty much.
When Amazon first started out, they used other companies, especially to ship out their products. UPS was showing up at my house like 4 times a day. When Amazon was, it was like Amazon.
Right.
Now Amazon actually owns their own shipping company. They have their trucks with the smiley face and all that. That's more of a vertical integration.
And it's interesting how you bring up that, like the fact that you have a company that's dependent on certain things. So if we're going with, let me see, I'm sure I have a good oil thing. All right, so I meant steel. When we're talking about steel itself, okay, well, he has to, in order to keep the fires going in his steel mills, he needs coal. So he's gonna have to pay for that. So how do you kind of get rid of that problem where you have to pay a lot of money for coal? You buy coal companies. Then what's next? You got to ship it. so you don't want to pay for shipping. So what do? You buy rail lines. So anything that's really can be attached to the steel industry, or Amazon, if there's anything that your company is going to pretty much rely on or pay for in order to provide a product or a service, if you own that, problem solved. You're going to maximize profits. You're going to spend very, very little on that particular. So when we're looking here, the production of these raw materials, again, we're talking about shipping over here in step 2, the processing, the refineries. I think the only thing he didn't buy was the fire. And if fire had a price in terms of the steel mills, he would have bought that as well.
Would have bought it as well.
And then, of course, something we're going to dip into a little bit when we're looking at the transportation, and it's finally getting to the consumer itself. So you're controlling all of that.
And it was amazing model in the time, and it turned him into at the time the richest person in American history. He will soon be surpassed by the most ruthless individual ever put on a shirt and tie and own a business, one John D Rockefeller.
So this is something that you even mentioned when we're talking about this gospel of wealth. I have this Scottish kid who came from really a humble background. Towards the end of his life, he amasses this huge fortune, and he believed that he had a duty to help out the poor towards the end of his life. So he gave millions of those dollars to charities.
Like 85% of his wealth, at the end of his life, he donated to charity.
And you probably didn't even make a dent into that fortune.
No! Yeah, like you're probably most familiar with Carnegie Hall.
Yep.
Donated. Like that beautiful concert hall in New York City, donated by Andrew Carnegie. When we look at these titans of industry, captains of industry, robber barons, they go by many different names. He was by far and away the most philanthropic.
Yeah.
Philanthropy. Yeah. And he actually inspired future generations of millionaires/billionaires.
Which is what Bill Gates has been into the last 15 years.
Basically, you can't take it with you.
Right.
But people are like, well, so did Rockefeller. No. Rockefeller didn't. It was his children and grandchildren who will eventually be donating all of that fortune as well. Same with the Vanderbilts that are out there. But he was truly. I had some great political cartoons. Did you happen to put them in this slide, or?
Not in this one.
Right. No worries.
Okay.
But they're great, and it kind of shows him with like money bags and all of the libraries around the country, all of the schools around the country, all of the public parks that are created with his wealth.
I'm trying to think. Was it a couple of years ago where like Fortune 500 has like a list of like the richest businesses or people in there, and then I think a couple of years ago, and of course it's not that well known, they also had a list of who winds up giving more back. So it was kind of cool to be on that list. It's cool to be on one list, and so that was something, where you start to see that a little bit, where people are actually giving back. Probably something, a tip they took from previous generations.
And his upbringing, I'm sure, had a lot to do with this.
Oh, of course.
Growing up poor in Scotland,
right?
Eventually earning enough money to immigrate to the United States.
And from what I recall, his father was a little bit more rigid. The mother was a little bit more empathetic and compassionate. So, a couple of things I read where he kind of borrowed that from mom.
Yeah.
Mom always has a way of just influencing you.
Yeah, always.
She's always watching.
Always.
Thanks for watching.